Hello and welcome to part 2 of the building series. I am Virtual from Zenith Corporation, and today I'm going to be showing you some more things about the voxel work. I had a couple requests from the comments in the last video, things like what are the core sizes, and to answer that question, an extra small core is 32, the next 64, 128, and 256 respectively, and that is from the center line of the core. So if I go from the center of this core, what is it about there? We have almost like the 32 blocks. See? Yeah, I didn't quite pick the middle, but 32 from the center line on an extra small core, so on and so forth. Medium is 128 from the center, from here to the build zone, is 128 blocks. Now, every 4 voxels is 1 meter, so if you take 128 divided by 4, then you get the amount, which is 32 meters from the center. So from here to here is 32 meters. That is pretty much what you need to know about that. I also had some people say they wanted to see more about flying, so I was going to show you some more things before we get started with actual voxelmancy, about how ships actually work, and a couple tips and tricks related to that. Now this is a default speeder that I have added a bigger engine to. You can build this default speeder straight away with the speeder parts that you have. Don't worry about the radar or the engine, it still flies great with either of these things. Also, for the small price of $14,000, or at least that's what it was, 14,000 Quanta, you can add a remote control to the top, which allows you just to fly it around like a hoverboard. Pretty cool. Now, like I said in the comments of the last video, someone wanted to see how this ship flew, so we're gonna fly it. And I also wanted to show some things with X when it's used twice. You can see all of the forces on the ship. Some things that you should know is that the center of mass of your ship is important, and the placement of the adjusters. You can see that when I roll, the adjusters on the wings create these steep blue lines, and the adjusters are more effective when they're farther away from the center of the mass of the ship. So that is the location you are going to want to place your adjusters when you're building a ship. Also, you can see the stabilizers are making forces holding the ship up, and you can see my stabilizer there is keeping the ship in line. Now if I turn the ship level and turn like this, you can see that that stabilizer is making that huge red line to adjust my course so that the course is following where my ship is pointing. So you should always have horizontal and vertical stabilizers if you possibly can. Furthermore, some more things that we can talk about is if you hold space as you're flying, watch my trajectory. Space actually trims your stabilizers. So if I click space, the trajectory goes up a bit. If I click C, the trajectory goes down. Click space, it goes up, and so on and so forth. Also, if you use your left and your right arrow keys, you can get the same effect. Those are some quick things about how the ships work, and also maybe it will help you when you build your first ship. Now, I need to find again my location, so bear with me here, and then we'll start getting into voxel theory and some more things related to that. Right, is exactly where I thought it was. There's also some stall angles. The ailerons have the same lifting factor as the stabilizer, however they have about half the stall angle. So if you're wanting to lift a lot of weight, you should use stabilizers. They'll help you stay in the air more effectively. That's something that is that's very useful. If your ship isn't getting to space, but you feel like you have enough thrust, it's going pretty fast, you should just add some more stabilizers. Also, when you land, you should come in at a relatively nice angle, and you should hold space because that puts the boosters to full power, and then you can click control to slow down. When the boosters hover, they're going to hover right above the ground. However, if you tap space on your boosters, you can hover a little bit higher. And this is useful if you have to clear obstacles. It mostly only pertains to vertical boosters. However, your hover engines work the same, so when you build your ship, you should think about where your vertical boosters are, or your hover engines, so that you can more effectively take off and land safely. And all of the information and statistics on these things can be shown in the build helper, which I went over in part 1. If you're not ready for a little bit more advanced voxelmancy, definitely go check out part 1, and maybe that can help a bit. But without further ado, we'll go ahead and talk about how the voxels work. So if I place a cube here, we notice that the cube has 8 vertices. So each place where a face intersects is a vertice. So this corner is a vertice, this corner is a vertice, and so on and so forth. And each single voxel has 8 vertices. If I place this wedge, you can see that it has 8 vertices. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and in the back 7 and 8. So on this wedge, the actual vertices are here in the middle, so it's not a perfect wedge, but it's close enough. The voxels can also be expanded past the build zone. Now a regular voxel would just be considered this. It's not expanded, and it's not smashed in any way. However, voxels can be expanded up to 2.5 blocks from their center, and that will end up give you a 5x5 cube if it's expanded. I don't have one of those on hand immediately, and I don't want to make one. So, a nice demonstration that I could show you is this. Now, if I hold to increase the size of my angle, you can see now that it's expanded. I'll show you again that the vertices are here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now the vertices are expanded out of the build zone, which means if you tried to select this wedge, it wouldn't work, you would have nothing. See what I mean? So when you select this wedge, you can see that it selects the voxel. And this is still one voxel, it is just expanded out a little bit farther. So now you might be asking, how do we use these things to build? Man, slow server today. Hopefully it doesn't crash while I'm trying to show you guys these things. And one of the first demonstrations I like to show you is paste priority. If you've tried to build a ship, you've probably tried to put an angle onto a flat surface of some kind, and I'm just going to grab an angle from this reactor set so I can demonstrate this. If I grab this angle from my reactor set, also another pro tip, you can scroll once you have a selection. So I have this selection with the matte aluminum voxel, but if I scroll to my red, it turns red, and I can go to blue and whatever. So now let's say I have this section. I'm going to rotate it so I can lay it flat down onto the flat floor here I have. And a lot of people would think intuitively you'll just end up with an angle on a flat floor. However, that's not how that works, and it's because of paste priority. Now I'm going to explain to you why and how that happens. And if you get one thing from this video, it is that the thing that is there first is dominant. And what that means is that the vertices of the item placed first don't warp to the other thing. So as you can see here, the vertice of this block warped to that vertice of the floor, because the floor is in cubes. However, if the angle was placed first and the floor was placed later, then the angle would actually place correctly. And I can show you this in more detail by literally doing it. So let me grab again this angle, make it blue, and now if I move the angle to here and I take and grab my floor, now the floor warps to the angle. Freaking server. Okay, there we go. So, the floor is warped to the angle. You can't see that immediately because the floor is the same color, which is why I'm going to build a checker floor. Give me just a second and we will do that, and it will be a really good visual on how this actually works. Same trick as last time, just using the copy paste. And bear with me as the server decides what it wants to do with its life. So now I have this beautiful checker wall. I'm going to copy it and move it because I don't want to mess it up. And I will grab again this angle. I can grab it just from here. And now if I take the angle, move it down like that, and I place it directly on the wall, you can see that it's the angle that warps because the wall was placed first. And as you can see, if I look behind the wall, all of the vertices of the wall are still the same. However, let's say, for example, that I wanted to make the angle match the wall. I'd place the angle first, and then I could grab the wall and move it like so, and you can see that the vertices of the wall have warped to the vertices of this angle. And that is because the angle was placed first, so it was dominant. The back is going to be nice because just the front vertices have warped. So if I grab this piece, you can see how that warp happened. So on and so forth. I can grab the pieces and demonstrate how they were placed in here. And this is one of the methods that are used to make really crazy things, like the reactor cube. This and the pinch tool can be used to manipulate the voxels in very interesting ways. But that is a good demonstration on how we can effectively use the rules of pace priority to put things on top of each other. And a practical approach, or a practical way you would want to use this, is right here on my ship. You can see that I've placed this angle on a flat plane. What I did was I put the angle first and then the plane later, because the vertices of the floor and the plane here have actually warped to the angle instead of the angle warping to the vertices of the plane. Now, let's say that maybe I want to place the gray piece inset. Well, now let's go ahead and take out the hole we want, because we want the gray piece to be placed first, correct? And now I'll grab the gray piece. And instead of putting it in front of the wall, I'm actually going to put it directly inside of the wall. And the rules of pace priority state that since this gray piece was pasted first, then everything pasted around it will conform to it. And I will demonstrate that right now. So let me grab maybe this line. The colors will get mixed up, but that's to be expected. And now if I, not quite like that. If I paste this line, you can see that it warps and fills the gaps where this gray piece is. Anyway, the server's lagging so bad I don't want to continue and finish it. But certainly you get the point. That I can use this technique of placing a line to make something inset into something else. And now you might be asking, how is this useful? And that I come back to my ship. Like, what if I want this nice gray outline on my cockpit? Well, what I did was I built this gray outline out of angles. Like, I just used like the angle like this, and I just built the gray outline, and then I've pasted inside of the outline the white voxels. And then same here, I've built this shape, and then I've pasted the white into it. And we can actually demonstrate even further how I can use that practically. Allow me to delete some of these things just to kind of clear up our build area. Now, don't expect to get this immediately. You should practice with this a lot, and only once you practice will you become proficient. So once again, we're going to grab a piece. Let's do something more steep, like maybe this. And say, for example, let me get my colors right. The video is going to be twice as long because I'm waiting for the server to load. So anyway, I've built this ridiculous shape. Something you probably won't use in real life, however, it's it's a good way we can demonstrate something. And now maybe I say I want the shape of my ship to be this, or maybe I want two sides of my ship to look like this. Well, I can take this piece, and then I can copy it, paste it like this, to increase the length of the ship, right? And then I can go inside the ship with a line. Say I grab a line like this, select the color I'd like, and then I can paste the line into the ship like this and cause it to conform to the angles of the ship. And once again, you should remember by now that the reason this happens is because the gray pieces were placed first, so they have priority, and the pieces I placed later warp to the gray pieces, and you can see how pretty that looks. And furthermore, if I cut out this back piece, you can see that it makes a perfect inlay in the shape that I wanted. Now you might be asking, how is this useful? Well, maybe I want to build a ship out of this shape, and I take the shape, I can copy it, and then I can mirror it. Then I can paste the shapes onto each other, maybe. And then I can go from here, and I could build like a cockpit out from the ship, and be like, oh look, well now we have a ship with sick red air intakes, right? Very slow server. So yeah, so there you go. It's we can make very pretty designs in a very simple way by using just a set like this and the rules of paste priority. You can also use paste priority with the line tool. That is relatively obvious. So we take the line tool, we can make some kind of a line maybe, and I can also take my pasting line that I talked about, select any color that I would like, and I can paste the line like so. And this works for any shape you can think of. However, beware not to go too far, because if I went too far like that, then the color would replace and it would mess up, but not to worry, backspace saves you from all of those things. The libraries also include arch sets like I talked about, circle sets, and etc. So if you want to make very pretty round ships, you can also use the same technique to do that. That is probably most of the things I want to talk about in this video. I encourage you to practice a lot with paste priority, learn how all of this works and how I did it, be proficient so that you can do it yourself. And come check out part 3. I should have that up in a couple days, and I'll probably be talking about things like being able to build very specific blocks using player-made tools like this reactor cube by BIA. Thank you to them for the reactor cube. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it was helpful. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments, and I will get to them in part 3. Thank you for watching.